Hello and good evening everyone. Hope you're ready for some more OCD fighting. I've got my book. Now tonight my therapy dogs have got the night off because I want to introduce you to this little octopus. They don't have a name or a gender yet. Could be a boy, could be a girl, could be non-binary. Haven't decided yet. No decision will be made until I come up with an octopus-based pun name. You know, kind of how like I call one of my favourite dogs is called Jennifer Slopez, you know, because it's a pun. Because bat sounds are usually slow. This little octopus is my latest mascot. Now, he was given this, well, I say he, I shouldn't really call him he, because I haven't given him my identity yet, but this octopus was given me today outside the supermarket. I won't say which one. And they were trying to get people to join Octopus Energy, which is a UK-based energy company that prides itself on being better than most. I don't know if it is or not, but that's what they say. But then again, they all say that, don't they? Don't they all say we're better than the others? Then again, though, you're not going to be a company that says we're worse than the others, are they? Anyway, they approached me, and after a brief conversation, they gave me this octopus. I decided to add to the collection of therapy support buddies. So if you think of a name, love to hear one. Although I may think of one in between. Right, now without further ado, I'm going to put you down. You can sit there. So I can't imagine it's very comfortable sitting on my hand like that. And let's carry on reading, shall we? Doing things the anti-obsessional way. Jeremy courageously decided to go a step further and actually deliberately bring on the thoughts in risky situations in order to test things out as fully as possible. That sounds dangerous, if you ask me, but we shall carry on. Now there's a little chart here, or a little box with writing in it. I'm going to read that. Planned behavioural experiment. Try to bring on the thoughts and images of harm. Number 1, near the baby. 2, when holding the baby. 3, when holding a knife near the baby. Jesus. Sorry about that, people, didn't mean to say that. I spent that last bit. So you have specific predictions on how much they are believed. The belief is, I'll lose control and hurt the baby. And it is, and as you probably saw earlier, Jeremy rated the percentage for this. He also rated the percentage of his anxiety level. So let's go with it. Number 1, near the baby. I lose control and hurt the baby, 60%. Anxiety level, 100. Number 2, holding the baby, 80%. Anxiety level, 100%. 3, when holding a knife near the baby. Lose control, 100%. Anxiety level, 100% plus. You saw, I would show, but I'll show it to you earlier. You would have seen it. It was on there long enough for you to pause and look. Okay. Itchy nose. Right. Next bit. The after the experiment. Did the predictions come true? Number 1. I felt very anxious during this. 100% for 20 minutes, which then went down. Conclusions. I was very anxious about my thoughts when near the baby. Does this fit with theory A or B? I'm definitely someone who worries about their thoughts. Which I do too, which is the whole point of OCD. You worry about the thoughts. It's not the actions, it's just the thoughts that worry you. Number 2. Anxiety went up to 80% but came down after 20 minutes. Number 3. Anxiety went to 80% but came down after 15 minutes. At the end, I did not hurt the baby. Conclusions? This experiment really challenged my beliefs that thoughts could make me lose control, and I found that even though I was very anxious, I was nowhere near losing control. The experiment shows that I don't act on them, even when I'm getting them a lot. Now that is something we all need to learn with OCD. See, the thoughts may enter here, but it doesn't mean we're going to act on the thoughts. Okay? Now, I do recommend people test this themselves, okay? Don't hold a knife near a baby or anything, okay? It's not silly like that, because it'll just lead to awkward questions and, could probably ruin your life. Because not everyone is supportive of, of OCD and things. And funny enough, on social media, I've been reading some of those "Am I the a-hole" things that pop up. And someone brought up how their partner had an intrusive thought about abusing a kid. And the story, I won't go into details, but the story basically fitted the OCD and basically fitted this. I mean, most of those things are written by AI, so they may have actually read this book. Or they may have even listened to one of my videos and gathered the story from there. I'll tell you something though that did make me sad. The amount of people who are ready to lynch this poor guy for an intrusive thought. Amazing, the comments said, "Run away, call the police, if not get a lynch mob." Really was distressing. So as I'll say this to you now, people, okay, if you do have these thoughts, please be careful about who you talk to, because not everybody's going to understand. Things are better now than they ever have been for the human race in matters of mental health, but we still got a long way to go. We are going to walk so the next generation can run with it, okay? Now let's get back to the book, shall we? Jeremy took what felt like a huge risk in bringing on his feared thoughts in a situation where he felt it was more likely to act on them. In doing this, he really left the OCD nowhere to hide. He now knew that even by acting in an anti-obsessional way, which made him feel very anxious, he was still not going to act on his thoughts. The more you can act in an anti-obsessional way, the less space the OCD will have to convince you that the reason nothing happened was because of luck or some special circumstance. And on the next page we have another chart thing, see? I'm going to read it. I know you've seen it, but I'm going to read it anyway, because it might help. Tackling behaviours and beliefs that keep rumination and intrusive thoughts going. Safety-seeking behaviour. Mentally rewriting events. This is a form of check-in. Keeps focus on danger and increases doubt. Undermines confidence in memory. Keeps you feeling anxious. But we should not go over things. We need to rate our belief in the danger. We need to rate the anxiety. And we need to rate confidence in memory over several experiments. Thought suppression. Trying to suppress thoughts makes you have more of them. In order not to think of something, you need to think of what it is you are trying to push away. What to do? Test this out by trying to suppress other thoughts like a polar bear, as we talked about earlier in previous videos. If you remember, the book said, if I tell you not to think about polar bears, you're going to think about polar bears, because the funny thing is I should not think about polar bears, so therefore you're already thinking about polar bears. Now, try it. Try not to think about polar bears, and I'm going to keep saying this, okay? Don't think about polar bears. Don't think about polar bears. Don't think about polar bears. Do not think about polar bears. For the love of God, do not think about polar bears. Did it work? Let me know in the comments. Keep it nice. Asking for reassurance. Reassurance is a form of check-in. It may give you temporary relief, but ultimately makes you feel less certain, as you'll always be able to pick holes in the answer. So don't ask. Don't rate your belief in danger, and do not rate your anxiety. Avoidance. Avoidance means that the beliefs remain unchallenged. As you are acting as if it is true, your obsessional belief feels more true. So you need to go into situations you have avoided. Try to lose control by bringing on the thoughts. And we have a few more yet, people. We've got some more of these yet. So, hang in there, okay? Thinking something is as bad as doing it. This means that thoughts are themselves a source of danger. It is impossible to not have these thoughts. So you need to go into situations you have avoided. Try to lose control by bringing on the thoughts. I'm a bad and dangerous person, or I wouldn't be having these thoughts. Because you are worried about being bad, you're on the lookout for bad thoughts. Therefore you will notice every thought that fits with this idea, and you will generate more of such thoughts. If this seems like evidence, then the belief will strengthen. This is a vicious circle. You need to ask a trusted person if they have ever had thoughts like this. Several research studies show that most people experience intrusive thoughts. And as it said earlier, a trusted person, okay, so please just don't go talking to strangers, okay, because that could seriously cause problems for you. As I said before, okay, we live in modern and light and tolerant times, but we've still got a long way to go. But as I said earlier, we walk so the next generation can run. In order to feel safe, I need to be completely certain that I won't do something wrong. It is impossible to achieve a sense of certainty about sexual doubts though. The more you try to be certain, the less certain you will feel, and so you'll get stuck in a vicious circle. So you need to go into situations you have avoided. Try to lose control by bringing on the thoughts. Practice tolerating uncertainty. Did your predictions about how bad it would be come true? Well, were you as anxious as you predicted? And were you as anxious for the amount of time you predicted you would be anxious? But the thoughts I have mean something fundamental about me. This belief will drive you to try to work out what the true meaning of the thought is. So you need to ask a trusted person if they have ever had thoughts like this. Several research studies show that most people experience intrusive thoughts. Now this is true, most people have. Most people won't think about it as that, but they will, but they would have. Like most mental health, most people have trouble with mental health, even they don't admit it. It's the same for intrusive thoughts. Last one. Anxious thoughts can damage my brain. This is of course an anxiety-provoking thought, and is an OCD trap. We are all hardwired to be able to experience anxiety, and when it is in proportion, it is a useful and necessary thing. Anxious thoughts cannot be damaging. OCD is unpleasant and stressful, and in this way can damage you by keeping you anxious for long periods of time. So you need to do a survey. Do other people experience anxious thoughts? Has it damaged their brains? Until you do a survey, you won't know. Rumination and intrusive thoughts, behavioural experiments, troubleshooting. I feel irresponsible for accepting my bad thoughts. Now you may feel very irresponsible and reckless by acting in this way. This is one of the ways that the OCD has bullied you. It is not irresponsible and reckless to stand up to a bully, far from it. What you're doing is experiencing for yourself the way the world really works. The OCD may even have convinced you somewhere along the line that you can't trust your judgment or who you are. This is what it wants you to believe so it can stay around, advising you on what to do to stay safe. Very much like a bully, it has stopped you from seeing how things work for yourself and has undermined your confidence. Keep rebelling against this unhelpful friend and soon enough you'll get your confidence back and put the thoughts back in line with all of your other thoughts. The future. What happens if you continue to treat the rumination problem as one of worry? Once you have done some behavioural experiments, you should be able to see that the evidence points in one direction, that the rumination OCD has been bullying you into believing that your thoughts are dangerous or mean something bad about you. If you really accept that the problem you have is one of worry and fear, and live accordingly by acting against your fears, we predict that the anxiety will over time decrease and you will be able to reduce your rumination. Now you can incorporate the fact that this is a problem of worry into your life and begin to do some of the things that OCD has stopped you from doing for so long. Jeremy really grasped the nettle and acted as though Theory B was true, although at times he did not feel this. However, by doing this, he stopped avoiding, and over time his intrusive thoughts reduced significantly. He began to believe and feel that he was a good enough person. To his wife and the rest of his friends and family, he was already a fantastic person, but they noticed how much happier he seemed. He no longer avoided any of the tasks he needed to do as a parent, found that he was much more present in all that he did. Next bit. It's not really a chapter, it's the next bit. Breaking free from religious OCD. Johnson had drawn out his theory A/B and knew that his blasphemous thoughts were no different from millions of other religious people. He realised that OCD had made him very focused on his thoughts, and he had become so preoccupied with what he was thinking that it had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every time he picked up his Bible, he thought, I hope I don't get any of those horrible blasphemous thoughts. And so he did. He realised that he was stuck in an OCD trap and he needed to really embrace Theory B to escape. Now we have another box chart thing. From honest with you people, they do the purpose, and I understand it's what I'm saying, but sometimes I just wish it was like a chapter I could read. To be very honest with you. Let's see how much. Okay. Almost there, people. Theory A says, the problem is that my thoughts are blasphemous and I will be condemned for them. The evidence is that it is a sin to have sexual images when you are in church or thinking about God. Theory B says, the problem is that I am so committed to my faith that I have worrying thoughts, which seem blasphemous, so I fear that I will be condemned for them. But the images are not things that I have chosen to think about, and they make me feel very anxious. I've always tried to live a very Christian life, and there is no other evidence that I am a bad person. I worry about this because I am religious. So if this is true, what do we do? Back to Theory A now, this is. You need to try to push the thoughts out of your mind. Look out for the thoughts. Try to atone for them at every opportunity. You need to avoid situations where the thoughts can be triggered. And stay away from church. But if I keep following these rules, what will happen? You'll need to do more praying and avoiding. This will take over your life. And that in turn makes you a bad person. Now it doesn't really, but that is what, if you're stuck in this trap, this is what you'll end up thinking. So just be careful out there, okay folks? Back to Theory B. If Theory B is true, what do we do? You ignore the thoughts. You don't monitor your thoughts or your body. Go to church. Study the Bible regardless of any intrusive thoughts. You cannot avoid anywhere or anything, which is right when you think about it. If I keep following these rules, what will happen in the future? You'll have a closer relationship with God and the church. As a person, it says that you are religious. You take the religion and your morals both very seriously. Where to start? Recruiting a friend or family member to help is often extremely helpful. It can feel very risky explaining the problem to someone else. Most often it brings great relief to everyone. We will discuss this in greater detail in chapter 8. Family and friends almost always notice that there is something wrong. Even when you try to hide your OCD, finding out what is troubling you is usually better for them than constantly worrying and trying to guess what is going on. Most people with OCD will find that family and friends try to understand their concerns and desperately want to help. Show them this book and work you have done linked to it to help them to share your understanding of how OCD really works. Now, it's nice that they say show them the book, no, as opposed to buy them another copy of the book, which I think is really nice. Because they could easily just say buy your friends a copy of the book. Like the way it says just show them the book, so you can kind of read it together. Now seriously though, this is a really good book. Okay, I've gotten some really good supportive comments from people, okay, who have related to these things, okay? So, if you get a chance, buy this book. It's on the internet. The link in the prescription will simply tell you the title, the author, and all that, so you know it's the right one. Okay, it's not an actual buying thing. You know, there's the big heartless corporation that will most likely sell a copy of this book. You have the online auction site which sells secondhand stuff, which will probably have a few copies of this book. You have many other online retailers who specialise in books that sell them too. Or you may just luck out and see it at a car boot sale. You never know. Johnson asked another member of his church, Hans, to help him with his problem. He explained that he had had thoughts that he didn't want to have in church and that this made him feel like he was a very bad person. Hans told him, I'm going to pronounce this Hans from now on. The name would have been on the screen by now, so you know the name I mean. Hans told him that his mind often wandered in church and he sometimes found himself thinking things that he wished he had not. He told Johnson about religious figures from history who had suffered with this problem. Together they planned a behavioural experiment. Hans agreed to do everything that Johnson did. Johnson went through the 3 choices. It was clear that the obsessional choice was to avoid his church and Bible and to try to suppress his thoughts. The non-obsessional choice was to ignore the thoughts and carry on regardless. The anti-obsessional choice was to bring on the thoughts in church or while reading his Bible. He understood that the anti-obsessional choice would be the anti-obsessional choice would be useful for several reasons, and explained the special forces metaphor to Hans. It is useful to prepare yourself for difficult situations. If you practice bringing on the thoughts in church, next time it happened unexpectedly, you would be prepared and know what to do. For example, if a thought popped into his head during communion and it is believed that he was a bad person became very strong, resulting in him wanting to leave, or actually leaving the building, he would know that he needed to go back in and allow the thought to stay in his head, and not to do anything else differently. He agreed with Hans that they would both think about sex during the next service at church. Okay, an expected turn of events. Johnson predicted that he would then have many intrusive thoughts that he would find disturbing. He planned to ignore these thoughts, let them come and go. Johnson's behavioural experiment was therefore an anti-obsessional choice. And I'm going to leave it at that tonight, people, okay? We're going to continue next time with Johnson's behavioural experiment. We'll begin out into that next time. Now, I hope you all learned something, and I hope you are all richer for watching or listening to this video. So until next time, I'm James. This has been Emotional Support Pink Octopus. Technically a mascot of a corporation, but that doesn't make them bad. Does it? No, it doesn't. See? So, bye.